People don't realize the value of what they have until it's gone, and by then, it's too late. My friends, have you ever noticed how some people only start missing you when you stop caring? It's as if they assume you'll always be there, waiting in the background, ready to pick up where they left off. But the second you truly move on, the moment you stop chasing, something shifts. Panic, regret, desperation. Suddenly they scramble to pull you back in, and guess what? That's when you know you've won. Before we go any further, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you is going to shift your entire mindset. You're about to see things in a way you never have before. Stay with me. Hey folks, imagine this. You're a warm, glowing fire on a cold winter night. They used to sit beside you, soaking in your warmth and taking comfort in your presence. But over time, they got careless. They assumed you'd always be there, burning just for them. So they walked away, thinking they could come back whenever they pleased. But when they return, expecting to find that same warm fire, they're met with something they never considered. The fire is gone. No embers, no heat, nothing. They reach out, but their hands meet nothing but cold air. That's exactly what happens when you move on, when you stop waiting, when you stop hoping, and when you realize that your worth was never tied to their presence. You don't need them, they need you. And the moment they feel that, they panic. They'll do whatever they can to get back in. Sudden texts, fake apologies, little breadcrumbs to see if you'll bite. But here's the truth, my friends. They're not coming back because they love you. They're coming back because they lost control. People want what they can't have. It's human nature. It's human nature. The second they feel you slipping away for real, their ego kicks in. They start replaying memories, wondering if they made a mistake, convincing themselves that they need to win you back. Not because they cherish you, but because they hate losing. And here's where most people fall into the trap. They mistake this panic for love. It's not love, it's possession. Think of it like this. Have you ever seen a child ignore a toy until another kid picks it up? Suddenly, it's their favorite toy in the world. They throw a fit, they reach for it, they swear it means everything to them. But the second they get it back, it goes right back to being forgotten. That's exactly how some people treat you. They don't want you. They just don't want to lose you. When you understand that, you stop falling for their tricks. You stop feeling guilty for walking away. You stop believing the fake apologies, the sudden nostalgia, the little "I miss you" messages. You see through it all, because the truth is, if they truly valued you, they never would have put themselves in a position to lose you. Real love doesn't take you for granted. Real love doesn't wake up only when it feels your absence. So what do? You keep walking. You don't look back. You don't lower your standards. You don't give them the satisfaction of knowing they still have a grip on you. Instead, you rise. You step into your power. You become the person you were always meant to be. Unshakable, unshakable, unstoppable. And that, my friends, is what makes them panic the most, because nothing is more terrifying than losing someone who no longer wants to be found. Drop this in the comments. I moved on. Now they chase. Write it, claim it, feel it. And if this message hit home, if you're ready to step into your power, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay with me, because we're just getting started. The shock of realization hits them too late. Regret is a cruel teacher. It shows up when the lesson is over. Have you ever noticed how people only start valuing something after they've lost it? It's like they assume things will always stay the same, that people will always be waiting, always be available. But the second reality hits them in the face. The moment they realize you're not where they left you, something inside them shifts. Panic, fear, desperation. That's when the regret sets in. Imagine this. Someone walks into a jewelry store, picks up a beautiful diamond, examines it, but then puts it back down. They assume it'll still be there later, that no one else will recognize its value. So they wander off, distracted by cheaper stones, believing they have all the time in the world. But when they come back, the diamond is gone, sold, taken by someone who saw its worth immediately. They stand there, staring at the empty space, heart sinking, hands sweating, mind racing. That's exactly what's happening to them right now. They thought they had you figured out, that you'd always be within reach. They assumed they could walk in and out of your life whenever they pleased. Whenever they pleased, but not anymore. Now you've changed, you've grown. You're no longer standing in the same spot, waiting for them to come back. And that realization is eating them alive. They start questioning everything. Did I make a mistake? Why don't they care anymore? Are they really moving on? Are they really moving on? They scroll through your social media, checking your posts, watching your stories, looking for some sign that you're still holding on. But instead, all they see is you thriving, unbothered, untouchable. That's when the fear kicks in, because here's a truth most people don't want to admit. Losing someone who still wants you is one thing, but losing someone who has outgrown you, that's a nightmare. And that's exactly what's happening to them. They feel the shift, the energy change, the absence where your presence used to be. Suddenly, all the things they took for granted, the messages, the patience, the love, are gone. At first, they try to deny it. They tell themselves they're just pretending. They'll be back. But as time goes on, that confidence turns into doubt. The doubt turns into regret. The regret turns into panic. They thought they had the upper hand. They thought they controlled the game. But they never realized you were never the one chasing them. They were just running from themselves. And now they have to face that reality. You see, people convince themselves of lies to make life easier. They believe you'll always be there because it makes them feel secure. They think you'll never move on because it feeds their ego. They assume you still want them because the alternative, realizing they lost you forever, is too painful to accept. But when they see you actually walking away, when they feel your energy slip from their grip, the world they built in their head starts crumbling. Fired. They'll try to convince themselves it's nothing. It's just a phase. But then the silence stretches longer, the memories hit harder, the late nights get colder. That's when they realize they are no longer the main character in your story. And the worst part, they can't rewrite the past. They can't rewind time. They can't undo their mistakes. All they can do is sit with the weight of their own choices. But here's where you come in. This is the moment where most people slip. This is the test. Because when they finally reach out, when they try to pull you back in, you'll be tempted to answer. You'll hear their words, feel their regret, and for a moment, you might even consider giving them another chance. But remember this, if they truly valued you, they never would have risked losing you in the first place. You are not an afterthought. You are not a backup plan. You are not someone's lesson to learn. So, my friends, stand firm. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Let them feel the weight of their choices. Let them sit in the regret, because the moment you step back into your power, the moment you decide that your worth is not up for negotiation, everything changes. They thought they could come and go as they pleased. They thought they had time. But time ran out. Drop this in the comments. I moved on. Now they panic. Write it, claim it, show them, show yourself, show the world. And stay with me, because next we're diving into what happens when your absence becomes unbearable. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Your absence becomes unbearable. The loudest sound in the world is the absence of someone who was once always there. They thought they could walk away and feel nothing. They thought life would continue exactly as it was, that their days would feel the same, their nights would still be warm, their world would remain untouched. But now something is missing, and no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try to fill the void, nothing quite feels right. The silence where your presence used to be is deafening. The space you once occupied feels too empty now. At first, they distract themselves. They keep busy, surround themselves with people, jump into new situations, convince themselves they've moved on. They post things meant to show the world, meant to show you that they're fine. But even they don't believe it. Because late at night, when the world gets quiet, when the noise fades, when they reach for something familiar and come up empty, that's when the weight of their choices starts pressing down. That's when the realization hits with full force. You're really gone. Imagine a person who never noticed the hum of a refrigerator until it suddenly shuts off. The silence is jarring, unnatural, impossible to ignore. That's what your absence feels like to them. They never fully appreciated your presence because they assumed it was just part of the background. Something that would always be there, something they could turn to whenever they pleased. But now that it's missing, they can't escape it. Every small reminder, your name, a song, a place, a phrase, triggers something deep inside, and the harder they try to suppress it, the louder it gets. They scroll through old messages, looking for something they missed, something that proves you still care, something that reassures them that the door isn't fully closed. They check your social media, hoping to see a sign, hoping to find some evidence that you're still waiting, that you still feel what they once ignored. But instead, they see you moving on. They see you glowing in ways they never expected. They see a version of you that no longer holds space for them, and it burns. That's when the regret turns into panic, because people always think they have time until they realize time doesn't wait. They thought you'd always be within reach, that even if they wandered, you'd still be standing in the same spot. But now you're gone. And the worst part? You don't even seem to care. That indifference, that complete shift in energy, is something they never prepared for. It shakes them. It makes them question everything. Because if you don't care anymore, if you're not affected, if you've truly let go, then maybe they've lost something irreplaceable. And that's the thought that keeps them up at night. That's the thought they try to drown out with distractions. But no matter how many people they surround themselves with, no matter how many empty conversations they force themselves into, they feel the difference. Feel the hollowness of every interaction that isn't with you. Because the truth is, it's not just anyone they miss, it's you. The way you made them feel, the energy you brought, the version of themselves they could be around you. This is the moment where they start questioning everything. They wonder if they made a mistake, if they miscalculated, if they were too confident in thinking they could walk away and return when it was convenient. Because now it's not convenient. Now the road back to you isn't a simple step. It's an entire journey. And they don't even know if they have a chance to make it. That uncertainty eats away at them. But here's the part that matters most. This is where you win. Because your power was never in chasing them, in proving your worth, in trying to convince them to stay. Your power was in walking away. Your power was in choosing yourself. And now, as they sit with their thoughts, as they replay memories, as they feel the loss they never thought they'd experience, you are free. Let them feel it. Let them sit in the silence. Let them experience, maybe for the first time, what it's like to truly lose you. Because this isn't about revenge. This isn't about making them suffer. This is about understanding that you were never meant to be someone's afterthought, someone's option, someone's safety net. You were always the prize, and now they have to live with the reality that they lost it. Drop this in the comments. My absence speaks louder than words. Write it, own it, let the world see it. And if you're ready to step fully into your power, hit that like button, subscribe and stay with me. Because next, we're diving into the moment they start watching your every move, desperate for a sign that they still have a chance. Trust me, you'll want to see this. The moment they start watching you closely. The greatest fear isn't losing someone, it's realizing they've outgrown you and don't care anymore. At first, they tried to act like they didn't notice, like your absence didn't shake them, like they were just fine without you. They convinced themselves you'd reach out first, that at some point you'd miss them and come crawling back. But now the silence is stretching too long. Your energy is nowhere to be found, and something inside them is starting to crack. So what do? They start watching you, not in a casual passing by kind of way. No, this is different. This is intentional, obsessive, desperate. Because when someone loses what they once took for granted, they don't just let it go. They analyze, they overthink, they start looking for signs. Imagine someone walking through a foggy mirror, thinking their reflection will always be there. But as the fog clears, they realize their reflection isn't looking back anymore. That's the moment they panic. That's when the questions start filling their mind. Are they really over me? Why aren't they reacting? Have they replaced me? And the worst one of all, did I mess this up for good? They check your social media, maybe even hourly. They scroll through your pictures, your posts, trying to decode every detail. Do they look happy? Are they really moving on? They check to see who's commenting, who's liking, who's standing where they once stood. And every time they see you thriving, something inside them twists. Because this isn't how it was supposed to go. In their mind, you were supposed to be stuck, waiting, watching them, hiding them. You were supposed to miss them so much that you'd eventually reach out. But now, it's them watching, them waiting, them missing you. And that's a reality they never prepared for. They'll try to act unaffected, but the truth is, they are obsessed with knowing if you still care. They need reassurance that they still have a grip on you, that they can still pull you back in if they choose to. But here's where you take your power back. You give them nothing. No reaction, no response, no breadcrumbs to feed their ego. Nothing. Because, my friends, nothing is more powerful than indifference. People can handle anger, they can handle sadness. But indifference, that shakes them to their core. It makes them feel invisible, irrelevant, powerless. And when you stop giving them access to your emotions, when they realize that their actions no longer affect you, they lose control. But one thing is certain, they are no longer the center of your universe. And that is what eats at them the most. Because losing someone who still wants you is one thing, but losing someone who has outgrown you, that's a nightmare. They start reaching in small ways, liking an old picture, watching your stories, maybe even sending a harmless message. Hey, just checking in. But it's not harmless, it's calculated. They're fishing. They want to see if they still have a hold on you, if you'll respond, if you'll give them a sign that they still matter. But you don't take the bait. Because this time, you see the game for what it is. You see their sudden interest, not as love, but as fear. Fear that they're truly losing you. Fear that you don't care anymore. Fear that they were just a chapter in your story, not the whole book. And that's when they really start to unravel. Because people don't chase what they already have. They chase what they think they're losing. But here's the thing, my friends. You don't need to be chased. You need to be valued. Valued. And the second someone only wants you because they feel you slipping away, they never truly deserved you in the first place. So let them watch, let them wonder, let them feel the distance, the silence, the absence of your energy. Because this is what they chose when they treated you as replaceable. And now they have to live with it. Drop this in the comments. I don't need to be chased. I need to be valued. Write it, own it, let it sink in. And if you're ready to fully embrace your worth, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because next, we're going deeper into what happens when their panic turns into desperate attempts to pull you back in. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. The panic sets in. They try to pull you back. People don't panic over losing you, they panic over losing control over you. At first, they told themselves a story. A comfortable little lie. They'll be back. They're just trying to act strong. They still care. I know they do. But as time stretches on, as the silence continues, as your energy remains distant, that story starts to fall apart. Nothing terrifies people more than a reality they can't control. Now panic kicks in, and when people panic, they do one thing. They try to pull you back in. At first it's subtle, a random hey out of nowhere, a like on an old post, maybe even a comment that seems innocent. But let's be real, there's nothing innocent about it. They're testing the waters, checking if they still have access, seeing if the door is still open. But when you don't react the way they expected, when you don't jump, don't respond, don't feed their ego, that's when the real desperation sets in. Now they start upping the intensity. They try to play the nostalgia card. Remember when we used to stay up all night talking? I just heard our song today and thought of you. They bring up old memories, hoping you'll feel something, hoping you'll slip back into the past. That past is gone. And when nostalgia doesn't work, they switch tactics, they play the victim. Suddenly, they've been going through so much. Life has been hard, and they just needed to reach out. Maybe for a moment, you feel something. Sympathy, a flicker of old care, a reminder of what once was. But pause for a second, my friends. Ask yourself this. Where was this energy when you needed them? Where was this effort, this urgency, when they still had you? Because this isn't about missing you, it's about missing the power they had over you. They don't want you because they love you. They want you because you're not accessible anymore. And that is what scares them the most. Imagine a gambler who always had luck on their side. They played recklessly, assuming the game would always go their way. But one day, their luck ran out. The cards weren't in their favor anymore. They tried to bet, but the game was already over. That's what's happening to them now. They rolled the dice, thinking they could always win you back, but now they're losing. So they try one more thing: jealousy. They post things meant to get a reaction. They accidentally mention someone new. They do things they know will get under your skin just to see if you'll crack, if you'll react, if you still feel something. But here's where you take back every ounce of power. You don't give them the satisfaction. Because the second you react, the second you let them see even a glimpse of emotion, they win. They know they still have a hold on you. They know you're still affected. And if they can still affect you, they can still control you. But my friends, you're not falling for it this time. Because you've seen the pattern, you've recognized the game, you understand that true love doesn't need manipulation to keep someone close. What's meant for you will stay, not because it's afraid of losing, but because it values you too much to ever risk it. So let them panic. Let them feel the weight of their choices. Let them sit in the discomfort of losing access to something they thought they could always return to. That's not your burden to carry anymore. The truth is, when people try to pull you back in, it's never because they suddenly realize your worth. It's because they realize you finally do. Drop this in the comments. They panic because I moved on. Write it, claim it, own it. And if you're ready to stay in your power, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because next we're talking about what happens when you ignore them and why the more you pull away, the harder they chase. Trust me, it only gets better from here. The more you ignore, the harder they chase. The more you ignore, the harder they chase. Silence isn't empty. It's full of the things they don't want to face. At first, they convince themselves that reaching out would be enough, that a simple message, a little breadcrumb, would be all it took to get your attention. But when you didn't bite, when you didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't even acknowledge their existence, something inside them snapped. Because now the thing they were running from isn't just a possibility. It's reality. You're gone and they no longer have control. And that's when the chase begins. You see, people like to believe they're the ones calling the shots, that if they walk away, they get to decide when and if they return. But when you refuse to play along, when you choose to act like they don't exist, it creates a kind of panic they weren't prepared for. Because now they have to deal with the one thing their ego never accounted for: being irrelevant to you. They start looking for cracks in your walls, testing new ways to get a reaction. If the subtle messages didn't work, they go bolder. A late night call, an unexpected accidental run in, a friend casually dropping their name in conversation. Anything to see if you'll flinch. Because if you do, if you acknowledge them even for a second, that means they still exist in your world. That means they still have a shot at getting back in. But when you ignore them completely, when your energy remains cold, distant, untouchable, that's when they spiral. It's like trying to scream in a soundproof room. No matter how loud they get, nothing reaches you, and that's silence. That silence is unbearable. Imagine someone trying to push open a door that used to swing freely, only to find it locked, bolted shut. At first, they jiggle the handle, then they knock, then they knock, then they start pounding on it, yelling through the cracks, demanding an answer. And when nothing happens, when the silence stretches on, That's when the desperation kicks in. Because now, they don't just want to come back. They need to. Not because they love you, not because they suddenly value what they had, but because they can't stand knowing that you're actually, truly, completely done. The human mind craves closure. It can handle losing something as long as there's still a door left open, even just a crack. That's why most people respond when an ex reaches out, not because they actually want them back, but because they think they need to end things properly. But that's the trap. Because the second you give them that response, that small reaction, you're handing back your power. And the more you ignore them, the more desperate they become. They start looking for ways to infiltrate your world. Mutual friends, fake accounts, sudden coincidences where they just happen to be in the same place as you, anything to force their way back in. Because the hardest truth for them to accept is that you are no longer accessible. People want what they can't have. It's human nature. And when you ignore someone who used to think they had power over you, it shatters their ego into a million pieces. They can't handle it. They can't process it. And so they try harder, chase faster, push more. But here's where you win. You don't give in. You don't acknowledge them. You don't let them pull you back into their emotional chaos. You stay focused, powerful, and in control. Because the truth is, their panic isn't about you. It's about them losing the game they thought they were playing. They expected you to be waiting, watching, hoping. They thought they had time, but now time has run out. And the more they realize that, the harder they'll try to claw their way back in. But they won't find the old you. The one who cared too much. The one who forgave too easily. The one who made excuses for them. That version of you is gone. And the person standing in their place, unshakable, unreachable, unbothered. Let them chase. Let them scramble. Let them feel the emptiness they created. Because now, they are the ones left in the past. Drop this in the comments. I don't chase, I attract. Write it, own it, feel. And if this message resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because next, we're exposing the manipulative tricks they'll use to try and drag you back in. And trust me, you need to see this. They will try to manipulate their way back in. When words don't work, manipulation begins. Watch closely, because this is where the real game starts. By now, they know you're slipping away. They feel the shift, the energy change, the unsettling reality that you're no longer waiting for them. And that terrifies them. So what do? They start reaching out not with honesty, not with love, but with manipulation. Because here's a truth most people don't see until it's too late. When someone loses control over you, they don't surrender. They strategize. At first, they tried the simple tricks. Checking in, bringing up old memories, testing if they still had access to your emotions. But when you didn't react the way they expected, they switched gears. They start pulling out the real weapons. The ones designed to confuse you, to make you question yourself, to make you doubt if moving on was really the right choice. This isn't about love anymore. This is about power. The first trick, the guilt trip. Suddenly, they're painting themselves as the victim. I've been struggling lately. You wouldn't even understand what I've been going through. I thought you cared about me. They try to make you feel like you're the bad person for choosing yourself, like abandoning them is somehow cruel, as if they weren't the ones who made that choice easy in the first place. And for a moment, you might feel it. That old instinct kicks in, the one that wants to comfort them, to fix things, to be the one who makes it better. But then you remember, where was this energy when you needed them? Where was this effort, this urgency when you were hurting? You see, people don't change overnight. What's happening now isn't some grand realization, it's a tactic. And when guilt doesn't work, they move to jealousy. Now they want to make you feel like you're the one missing out. Suddenly, they're out having the time of their life, posting things they know you'll see, making sure you know they're doing just fine without you. Maybe they start throwing hints that there's someone new. Maybe they make sure you hear through mutual friends that they're happier than ever. Happier than ever. But my friends, let me tell you something about people who truly move on. They don't need an audience. If someone is working overtime to prove to you that they're fine, it's because they're not. This isn't happiness. This is a performance. And the sad part? You're not even watching. And that's what pushes them into desperation. Now they start love bombing out of nowhere. You start hearing things they never said before. I've realized how much I love you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I can't live without you. Suddenly, they're showing the affection you begged for. The attention you once wanted is now being thrown at you in full force. But here's the million-dollar question. If they truly loved you this much, why did it take losing you for them to act on it? Because it's not love. It's fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of watching you move on. Fear of knowing that you're no longer within reach. Real love doesn't need loss to wake up. Real love doesn't wait until you're gone to finally act. This isn't love. It's manipulation. And here's where you need to stand your ground, because this is the final test. This is where most people break. This is where they fall back into the cycle, thinking maybe they've changed. Maybe they really mean it this time. But if you let them back in now, you're teaching them that all they have to do is panic, and you'll come running. No more. You're not falling for the same story with a new script. You're not entertaining the same performance with a new set of lines. With a new set of lines. You've grown. You've evolved. You've reclaimed your power. And now you hold the cards. Let them try. Let them throw their tricks, their words, their empty promises. Because while they're scrambling to pull you back in, you're already too far ahead. You see through it. You're no longer blinded by the illusion. And that is what breaks them the most. Drop this in the comments. I see through the game. Write it. Claim it. Let it be known. And if this message resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because next, we're talking about why the moment you outgrow them is the moment they fear you the most. Trust me, you're gonna want to hear this. The power shift. You're no longer the same person. The greatest loss isn't losing someone. It's realizing they've outgrown you, and there's no way back in. They thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out. In their mind, you were predictable. Someone who always cared, always forgave, always left the door open no matter how many times they walked in and out. But now, they're looking at you, and they don't recognize the person they once knew, and that terrifies them. Because the truth is, people don't really fear losing you. They fear losing the version of you that still wanted them. The version that would have answered their late-night messages. The version that would have fought for them, excused their behavior, tried to make things work. But that version of you is gone. And now they don't know where they stand. At first, they try to convince themselves that you're just pretending, that this new energy, this new confidence, this new attachment is all an act. They're just trying to make me jealous. They're just trying to hurt me. They'll come back eventually. But the longer you stay unbothered, the more that little voice in their head starts whispering something they can't ignore. What if they really don't care anymore? And that's when the panic turns into full-blown fear. Because now it's no longer about getting you back. It's about getting back the power they lost, the control they once had, the comfort of knowing that no matter how they treated you, you'd always be there. But now, they're the ones left questioning everything. Imagine a person who used to have a key to a house. They came and went as they pleased, never really appreciating the space because they assumed it would always be theirs. But one day, they try to walk back in, and the locks have changed. The door won't open. And when they look through the window, they see something that makes their stomach drop. Someone else is inside, and they don't belong there anymore. That's exactly how they feel right now. Because the truth is, when you grow beyond them, you become untouchable. And nothing is more painful than realizing you've lost access to something you once took for granted. They'll try to pull you back in, not because they've changed, but because they don't want to accept that you have. They'll test you, trying to find any trace of the old you. They'll say things they know used to get a reaction. They'll bring up old memories, hoping to spark something inside you. But the problem is, they're talking to a person who no longer exists. The version of you that cried over them. Gone. The version of you that waited for their attention. Gone. The version of you that needed closure. Gone. And that's what shakes them to their core. Because now, for the first time, they're the ones feeling uncertain. They're the ones wondering what they did wrong, what they could have done differently, if they still have a chance. But here's the truth. They don't. Because you've reached a level of peace that doesn't need their validation anymore. And that is the ultimate power shift. You see, they thought the worst thing that could happen was you being angry. They thought as long as you still had emotions for them, good or bad, they still mattered. But indifference is the real heartbreak. Because it means you've let go. It means you've moved forward. It means they are no longer a factor in your life. And now, they're the ones struggling to move on. Because the greatest regret isn't just losing someone, it's knowing that even if you came back, they wouldn't want you anymore. Let them feel it. Let them watch. Let them sit with the reality that they no longer hold space in your world. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving a point. This isn't about proving a point. This is about stepping fully into your worth and never shrinking back. Drop this in the comments. I've outgrown them, and they feel it. Write it, claim it, own it, own it. And if you're ready to step into your full power, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because next, we're talking about the final stage, when they finally realize the door is closed forever. And trust me, you won't want to miss this.